Today we are going to be doing the upgrade kit along with the gimbal and the FatShark so we could do FPV. So some of the items that we have, the upgrade kit that came in the package. Over here we have the gimbal, and here are the mounting brackets for the gimbal. The Zen Muse H3 2D. And we have a soldering iron, we have solder, 3M double-sided tape. Over here we have a Phillips, and here we have a T 09X40 Phillips. Well, it's not a Phillips, but it's a screwdriver to remove the star screws. And then we have mounting hardware for the gimbal. And currently we do have the FatShark transmitter installed, and there's a GoPro Hero camera mounted to the Phantom. So we will first begin disassembling the Phantom by removing the blades. When removing the blades, one of the things you'd probably want to do before you reattach them is balance the props. Okay. Also, when we go to reattach the props, that we have to note the direction. Otherwise, it will not fly. One of the problems I've noticed is without the mounting kit or the upgrade kit and the gimbal, is we get jello where the video actually looks wobbly and it's unsteady. So hopefully this kit will resolve a lot of those problems. Okay, turn it over, and we're going to remove the camera. One of the reasons I'm having some difficulty removing it is because I made my own mounting bracket for the GoPro so that I could have the FPV underneath instead of mounting it inside of the chopper. Okay, so you can see here, this is the adapter that I made, and I also had to fill in space. So all of these factor into poor video because of somewhat being flimsy. Camera's not quite on there straight in the bracket, so hope to eliminate a lot of these imperfections. Okay, this was mounted with double-sided tape. This is the transmitter for the FatShark, and I also have the added dome antenna. Alright, so our next step is to disassemble the Phantom. So screws we need to remove. here, 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 and here. The outside is a Phillips. So I'm going to remove those. Notice that they do have Loctite from the manufacturer. That's the blue. We don't want to add any additional. We leave it as is. And then we'll use our star so you can see that. Now we don't want to remove these screws, that attaches the motor, but we do want to remove the ones inside. Kind of note how tight, and then the size of the screw. Just place them there. So far they're all the same size. Okay, that's that side. I would imagine removing the landing gear could possibly make things a little easier on me, but I'm lazy. Because of this Loctite being on here, these are definitely harder to remove. Boy, just goes forever. We're going to come back to that one. if this one gives me the same problem. No. And so I don't bore you to death, I will speed this part up. But I won't cut it out. Okay. Let's try to get this one out again. Looks like it's already separated, it's just sticking to the plastic. Okay, at this point, should be able to remove it. We do have our decals here that we're going to have to pull off. Hopefully I can reuse them, and that's why I'm not pulling them completely off, just so I can separate the body. Alright, we do have a wire attached for the GPS. So, I'm going to flip it around. See inside, and let's see, this one here is where our screw is giving me some troubles. I'm going to just push it through. There we go. Okay. Now, it is important to note all of your connections, knowing that this is the battery door, the tray, and that's what is considered to be the front. So we have all these wires that we'll need to remove, the motor control wires. And I do want to note the position so that when we go to put them back, that they're all in the same spot. Okay, so we're going to start by removing the EXP, which is this guy up on top. So now we still have our compass attached. I'm going to leave that there. And then here we have our LED. That's the other one going horizontal. Pull that out. Also note that these tabs here only allow it to go in one way. Then the only other two connections we have are the X3 and X2. Note that the brown was on top. And again, we have a one-way connector, so it will only go on one way. And same with the other one, the X2. Okay. Now what I will do here, so that I know which motor goes where, is I'm just going to write with a pen on the body of the inside, so we won't see it, the number that it's on. I'm going to pause. Okay, so I got my Sharpie here, and I'm going to label these. Right here is number 1, number 2, and we'll write 3, and here is number 4. Okay. So you're matching these numbers here, the M1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're going to start with M1. Pull that guy out. And we'll also note that the brown wire, the darker brown, is on top. But again, it's a one-way connector. It's got a tab on it. So you can't go wrong. There's the next one. Next one. And the last one. Okay, this Naza controller should be on here with double-sided tape. Attempt to remove that from here. Give it a twist. Definitely on there. I'm probably going to remove it once I have the board removed. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do is open up our upgrade kit, and in the meantime I turn the soldering iron on, put some water in the tray to clean the tip of the iron. So let that heat up. We're going to open up the upgrade kit. Okay. That's for our tilt control. It goes on the remote control. And this is the LED. It's got a longer cable. That's why they replaced it. Got some additional screws, hardware. They give us some instructions. And then of course the main board. Who reads the manual, right? Well, Fortunately, I'm actually following instructions off their video from YouTube. It's a little bit easier. But never hurts to take a quick look. Here they're showing the board is designed to replace the center board of the Phantom. This is the PMU, the power manage unit, and the GCU, the gimbal control unit, and has added ports for wireless video transmission module and the Zen Muse H3-2D to enhance the compatibility of the H3-2D. Does require the Naza firmware version 3.12 or above. The assistant software version 2.12 or above. And in the box it gives you all of the items that are included. Self-repair tools, basically the Allen screwdriver, fillet head screwdriver, soldering iron, cable ties, and scissors. Disassemble the 4 propellers, which we did. Remove the screws. 4 arms, we did. Disassemble the original center board inside the Phantom. Cut off the cable ties to release the USB cable. Disconnect the connections to the motor controllers. Desolder the ESC cables. Remove the screws to disassemble the center board. Disassemble the original LED board. Assemble the new LED board. And then we're going to actually assemble the P330CB-H32D. And then reassemble. And the reverse side is directions in a different language. Okay. Put those aside. So, by now our iron should be heated up. We'll clean the tip. And we'll note that these are polarized. You have ground, it's marked ground, and then VCC for the voltage control. Move some of these wires out of the way. This iron is not going to be hot enough, so we're going to break up the 30-watt iron. We should get a better heat out of this. So we changed iron, we'll let that warm up. Right now we'll remove the cable tie. So they wanted us to use scissors. Cut. Get these motor control wires out of the way. This is our accessory cable. That should pull through. Yeah, it was just laying in there. That's basically for power. Okay, we got out the welder iron, heated it up. We'll see if it gets hot enough to do anything. There we go. Let's let it heat up again. Give it some time to heat up again. And that's key to getting a good solder joint. Notice these are cold joints because they turn gray, and how the original ones are nice and shiny. It makes a big difference for connectivity. Probably should have a bigger tip on this iron. Okay. That's where flux actually would help in this situation too, because it conducts the heat. Letting the iron heat up again. Now this next one, got a bunch of glue in the way. So we'll have to clean that up. Okay, we're removing the silicone that was used to insulate. That way it won't burn. You get a toxic burn. And we apply the iron. And also our iron should be hot now. Okay, now we have the board disconnected. I'm going to unplug my iron. The next step is to remove the screws. There should be 4 on the main board. Again, we're going to note the position of the Naza controller, where we have the LED and the XP connectors. Facing the LED side, or the USB cable, and then the motor control is on the other side by the battery tray. And that's important that we get that on there when we use the double-sided tape. Not only for getting the wires back in the original position, Why they put extra glue on this guy. Okay, our board should come up. We got a little bit of glue over here. Okay, we also have the power for the battery. We may have to take that off too. I'd have to refer to the directions. Well, let's see what we have with the new board. And it looks like the power is already attached, so that's nice. One less thing to solder. Notice the different control mounts. So that's going to go in like that. And they also pre-tin the soldering points. And just so we have reference. There's ground, so they are a little bit different in the layout. Not as many places to mount a zip tie. And notice it's off to the side. So it's not going to be positioned in the center. Okay, so the next thing they wanted us to do is to remove the LED. There's some foam here. And we have 2 screws. And of course our foam is interfering, so I'm going to just take that off altogether for now. Set that aside. A very small screw. There's 2 of them. Glue on this one. don't think a number 2 screwdriver is going to work here. No, not even close. So, got to clean the glue off this screwdriver, or find another screwdriver. Okay, so I had to get one of my jeweler screwdrivers. So that's all I had left without glue on the tip. And sure enough, I'm holding on the screen for the LED. Okay. So that comes off. And pull the screw out. Get down here. Alright, now this should break free. Notice that they have that glued in there pretty well, so it's gonna cut through some of the glue. So we'll probably be putting some silicone in there. Alright, so there's our USB cable. Goes into the LED module. And that should unplug. There you have it. There's your LED. Okay, set that aside. Alright, next step. So we're going to assemble the new LED, which is in here in this bag. And you say, why the difference? Basically, because they gave us a longer cable. It's the same board, so if your LED light ever goes bad, you could use this one. You just have to do some work to get the shorter cable and extend it. Alright, so now we have the same challenge. Put in the original USB cable. Plug it in. Like so. Now I'm going to clean that old silicone out of there. Get some new stuff to stick in there. Scrape it off. Try to get somewhat of a clean surface. Alright. So we have the LED facing the outside. We'll go ahead and attach the screen. Take the original screw. Start it through here. Get it started. Okay, so the lens in front didn't quite line up. There we go. Gonna back it off so it goes in straight. Okay, it's started. It's nice to have a magnetic tip. It's alright. So many other challenges. Sometimes when you have tools to help you, why not use them? Not that they're required, but it sure makes life easier. Get it in position. Now the USB cable's in the way, so I'm just gonna if it can, it will. Readjust this again. Sometimes gravity is your friend, and so you'll have to make use of it or fight it. I'm going to fight it one more time. I don't know if I don't have success.
McDonald's for lunch today because of their free fries.
Okay.
And tomorrow's the last day of those coupons anyway.
So I guess we're having McDonald's for lunch. Alright, we got it started. Now we'll continue to tighten it down. Okay, that's in place. Okay, so we're going to put on the foam, protective foam. Okay. And now we install the main board. Get it in position. Let's see. I'm fighting the power wires, so I'm going to just bend them up for now. And of course, we have the glue issue here. And that's going to be in the way when we go to solder our wires, so I'm going to just pull that off. Okay. Somewhat of a tight fit, but it works. Now to put on our original screws. The four did not have Loctite on them. You can tell these are a different thread, a plastic style thread. Should I say coarse thread? Start over here. I'm not going to tighten it all the way down until I make sure I have all the wires out of the way. And you also need to check the USB cable. Does it go underneath? And we could fish that underneath later if we need to. Now I know I grabbed the wrong screw because it has Loctite on it, where the originals did not. There we go. They're all nice and tight. Okay. And now for the next tricky part, you get the Naza off of the board. And just again to note the position, the EXP wires are going to go to the rear, so when we mount it on there. But what I'm doing is taking a screwdriver and I'm going between the tape and the Naza board. I'm breaking loose the tape. Trying not to damage. Just working my way all the way down. And there you have it. So that's going to sit on this board like so. Notice that they have holes in here. Not that it's probably for weight, to reduce some weight. I don't think it's for cooling. So we're going to use double-sided tape to put that on there. And now we're going to use this double-sided tape that I got from 3M. And we'll cut it out to size here. Okay. That as a spare. Push it on nice and tight. Okay, again, we have the EXP and the LED facing this side. So that's where these will get plugged into. So we'll take the tape, the rest of the tape off. line it up as best we can. Like so. Push down. It's on there. Now we're going to mount the 3-pin into the X3. This is for the voltage monitoring. That's the one right here. Remember, brown was up. Nice and snug. And the next one we're going to put in is the 3-pin cable into X2, which is the receiver. That's the main board. 3-pin receiver, where are you? Okay. Brown is up. Goes into the X3, like so. And then the 4-pin LED cable. This is our extended cable. And we're going to run it underneath the USB. And that's going to go into the LED section over here. Then the next cable is the 4-pin cable to the EXP port. That's this guy here. And slides in like so. Notice brown's on this side, brown's on that side. Next we're going to plug the M1 and M4 servo cables to the M4 port. Before I get ahead of myself, we probably should do some soldering so that our wires won't get in the way. So now that we have this side connected up, remember we want the VCC, go to the VC side. And then ground to go to ground, so that'll go like that. These cables, ground, and once we get all those in place, we should be good to go. Alright, now for some soldering tricks. You got these clamps to hold the wire so you don't burn your finger. Make sure ground goes to ground. That's V, that's ground. So we're going to heat the wire. Okay. Let it heat up again. These are clamps. Flip it around. Pre-tin our soldering iron. Heat the wire. Make sure it goes all the way down to the board. Okay. Pre-tin our iron. Okay, again we got ground to ground. Come in this way. V. VCC to VCC over here. Heat or pre-tin our wire. Our tip. Wire nice and hot. Go down to the board. Okay. Ground. Pre-tin our wire. We'll get that dirt off of that. I'm gonna knock the excess solder off there. Okay. Wire nice and hot. VCC to V. Rinse and repeat. Okay, nice and solid on there. Moving on again, we want to make sure we have VCC to VCC and ground, so we're going to do, this time we'll do VCC first here. Move that guy out of the way. Grade 10. Knock off excess solid. Okay. Gotta get a better grip on the gun. Okay. Ground to ground. Grade 10. Okay. Check your connections, make sure they're all nice and tight. Alright. Plug in the... Okay, so the next thing to do is to plug in the motor controls, the MCs. So here, remember I labeled this one number 1, and brown always went on top. So I'm going to run it underneath the USB cable. Number 1. This is number 2. Seem to have caught the wire. There we go. Okay. This is number 3. Brown going on top. Again, catching that other cable. There we go. And the last one, number 4. Very tight. Okay. That looks good. all wires. The only one I don't like that I'm going to route is the USB cable. Looks something like that. Okay. That always tends to get in the way of the battery, so then I just pull that up like that. So it rests out of the way. Okay. Now the only thing we need to do before we close it up, or don't want to forget, is to put some silicone here. And we had some over here too to make sure that didn't come up. So now the next thing to do is to plug in the H3 2D 8-pin cable into the 8-pin port of the new center board. And believe it or not, there was double-sided tape included in this, so I didn't have to go out and buy my own. So that's good for future people to install. There's your double-sided, they even give you spare. Alright, so here we have our video cable and our 8-pin cable. Oh, an extra cable, I'm not sure what that's for yet. We'll put those aside here. So what we want to do is plug in onto the new board. Note that one side is thicker than the other. And plug it in here. Yeah, you got the 2 notches on the top side here too. That one does plug in. You actually feel it snap in place. So now the next part is to push out this rubber grommet. And this is over by number 2 motor. Notice where the motor control cables are. So we're going to push this grommet out. It's just rubber, just Phillips, and that's what comes out. We'll set that aside. And then we want to take and do a twist like so. Get it closer to the wire. So that it'll fit through. We'll use a screwdriver to help it along. Yeah, it looks like I need to make it a little tighter than that. Being careful not to rip any holes in the wire. Just pull it through. Like so. There we have it. Okay. So now the next thing we're going to do is plug in the video link cable. It looks like it's going to be a custom because it's not spliced on the other end. It goes in here. Just to get some pressure underneath the board here. Okay. And they feed it out through the same port as the compass. So that goes through the Just help it along. Okay, nice and tight there. In this clip, this is where I attempt to hook up the FPV Wireshark transmitter. I want to have it sit in here and have the antenna go out that port right there. So what I will do, push this grommet through. That. Take that one out. See if I can feed the antenna up through. And it does not look like it will fit. That is disappointing. I would actually have to drill that hole out to be a little bit bigger. So at this point in time, I am not going to mount that yet. And I also did not put in the epoxy that goes between here and here, as I do not have any that's usable. It all dried up on me. So for today's demo, I'm going to at least verify that everything is functioning as is. So we'll put the lid back together. Noting, I still have to hook up this GPS cable to the main board, like so. And I saved the decals. Make sure there's no wires gonna get pinched. got a decal over here. There we go. So far, so good. There's our gimbal cable. Let's move the FatShark cable out of the way. So, we're going to start with the outside Phillips. Get it snug. I don't want to go tight until I have everything in position. Should have one more screw. There they are. I'm going to make an assumption that we are not going to be using this cable or this adapter because that's what the upgrade kit has replaced. So we don't have that extra added weight. Okay. Then we had the small screws. Use our Allen. And now before I tighten everything down, just check the wires being pinched. Looks good. Make them snug. Okay, 3 left over here. back around and tighten those up. Careful not to over tighten and snap plastic. Okay, so now we should have our final 4 screws that go by the landing gear. They're nice and snug. Now, you'll probably remember there's 3 things. The USB cable had a zip tie, and 2 connections had glue. And I'm sure that's extra safety. In case you were to pull on the cable, on the USB cable, it would pull it loose out of the LED. So when I go to put the FPV in, which I'll probably do after a couple of flights, I'll have purchased the glue and be able to complete that. So here's our video cable, which is unusable right now. So the next thing we're going to do is remove the original mounting bracket for the camera. That's Phillips. And I do want to go around the Phillips on the outside and snug those guys up. Okay, so this should come off, and now our next step is to mount the gimbal. So it looks like we have the rubber. They supply us extras for the dampening, the jello, anti-jello. We get 30 degrees is what's written on the bag on the whites, and 40 degrees on the blacks, and it comes pre-assembled with blacks on it. So notice that there is a difference on the mount. We have this extra hole here, and then we have the center hole, and those are going to go right here. Now what I need to find out is if it uses the original screws. It looks like it does. Yep, so we'll have those. The fun one's going to be in the center. getting that one started. So I'm gonna do that as I drop the screw. Use this screwdriver. Get it in position here. There we go. Notice I had to move the rubber to get it in position. Oh boy, flash flood alerts. So before I could tighten that one up, I'm going to find the original screw. Tighten this up. And just kind of so I'm going to loosen this one to give me some room to play. You get it started. There we go. Alright. Nice and tight. Don't want that camera falling off. Okay, now we have an extra bracket. Well, it's not extra, a bracket for the camera. So we're going to mount our hero. Take off our previous. Take the camera out of the previous bracket. Okay, pull that apart, that opens up, that away. Now on the gimbal, notice it's going to use the back connector on the GoPro. The disadvantage to this is now you have to disassemble the whole camera to ever change that battery. But it also holds it in place, makes it snug, and then you have the bracket that comes around and holds it secure. Now we need to find some screws for that. Let's see if they actually give you directions. So I'll be right back. So I found this bag that's marked M2 5*6.3. It's got dark or almost black with a little sleeve on the end, but it is an Allen. So I took two of those out so I could use this bracket to hold the GoPro. This bracket here. So I started one right there. I'm going to put the other one in position. Flip that around. So just give it a little extra, snug it up. Alright, now that the camera is mounted, the next thing to do is hook up the cable. It looks like I'm going to flip it around. It's going to go like so. That's going to mount there. Obviously we need to hook up the cable first. It's got 2 slots. Trying to avoid extra twist. Doesn't look like that's possible. Just doesn't feel right. Boy, talk about not liking that. It does plug in, but it's not right. It's not snug. None of the pins are bent. Take a look at the cable that came. This is the black cable that came with it. Let's see if it is different. I have the same issue. So, all else fails, try again. It started, just doesn't snap in like the way it did on the main board. There it goes. Finally, nice and snug. Okay, just had to put some pressure on it. So now, how are we going to run that wire? Boy, they do not give you much room for error. So it looks like this gray cable is not quite long enough. I must have run the cable incorrectly, so I'm going to have to disassemble it again. And just to show you, because the lens of the camera is supposed to face the back and the gimbal, this piece here gets mounted there, and it just doesn't have enough room. Not enough slack in the cable. So I may end up using the original black cable that we have from the original Zen Muse. So I'm going to open it up. Okay, using the M563 bag, took 2 of the black screws out. And as you can see, I got the cable attached. Now, the challenge is starting the inside screw. There we go. Like so. Just gotta hold it and find a way to work the screwdriver in there. Okay, feels like it started. And take the next black screw. Then I have to start it by hand. Alright, now, if I could get the right angle. Start it in by hand. Figure out a way to tighten it. Let's see. Flip the camera around maybe. There we go. It's nice and snug. Now, since it is work, I was considering firing this bad boy up without putting all the screws in, just to make sure it can calibrate. So I'm just going to put the outside screws. Oh, first I need to flip it back over and run that cable. This cable here is my concern. I'll just fold it over in a little crease. And that should hold it in position. Everything looks good now. Okay. Got our decals. Okay. Flip it over. Start in with our Phillips. Tighten those guys up a little. Now, go ahead and do the Allens. And you've seen this before, so I'm going to stop the video. Okay, now we're going to test power it up. See what happens. Turn on the remote. That's a good sign. However, you hear the motor's working. The camera is stiff in one position. Look at that. I'll reset. I'd say that's a good sign. Seems like if you overcorrect though, it does reset. Interesting. Okay, well, power it down. Okay, so now the next thing is to update the remote. Flip it around, take the batteries out. Take the Phillips screwdriver, remove the 4 screws. Wow, we're going to use the number 2. Should have all 4 screws. I don't want to do any damage to this guy, so take a moment. So when you take it apart here, you got to pull pretty hard just to separate that. It's another one of those things they don't tell you. So flip it around. They do suggest taking the power cable off. Like that. So that was the power cable. Then they show adjusting the top screw here, and they want you to adjust it fully to the right. Let's see if that'll show in the video. So we're taking this screw and we're turning it. I'm going to actually try a straight slot. I'm going to get a smaller straight slot. Okay. So you want to get a straight slot screwdriver that's going to fit in there. And you're going to turn it all the way to the right. Next we're going to take one of the supplied double-sided adhesive tapes and let's see, will this antenna come off? Fear of breaking it, I'm going to leave it on there. So anyways, back to the back here. We'll get out our next package. So it comes with the lever, a screw, instructions, bag is now empty, comes with two 3.5 screws. Now it looks like they already have double-sided tape on here too. And that's going to go right there. Mount, position, Use double-sided tape. Mount the slide lever. Connect. Installation already detail. Instructions are very minimal. So the double-sided tape that's already on here, I believe. Yeah. So that peels off. Does it go in the upper or the lower? I'm guessing it goes in the upper. Yep, goes in the upper. So like that, just kind of push it in. Okay. Unplug power. So now the next piece I'm going to show is this. I'm going to flip it over. So you see it comes through the back. Then you take the handle and I'm imagining a screw. Okay. Take one of the screws. Phillips. Okay. So that's installed. Now we plug in the power cable again. and screw the remote back together. Go back here. You know what's interesting is they did give us, is this the same type of cable? It is not. So I'm not sure what that cable is for though. Okay. Now, trick is getting this all back together the right way. Slides under like so. And if we've done that correctly, that should work. Screw it back together. Snug them up. Okay, and now we got to put in our batteries. I do have markings on my batteries. Number one, that way I'll never use them again. Once I remove them and I know they're dead. So I just put the number 1 across there, since that's my first set. Okay, close it back up. Good to go. So there's our knob. Kind of feel it while so we'll see how that works. So now they suggest that we hook it up to the computer to the USB port. So that's our next step. Okay, we're finishing up our mods. We installed the FatShark right here using a long antenna. I had to drill a hole in through one of the landing gear ports so that I could have the antenna go through. And the reason for the hole is it wasn't quite big enough for this nut to get, that's your antenna nut to mount to the FatShark. So I used double-sided tape to mount it. One of these hooks similar to this, where you run a tie through it. The zip tie goes through there, and then there's double-sided tape on the other side, went straight down. Here's the zip tie. I modded a cable that I had for the video going into the FatShark using the existing video that came with the upgrade kit. That's this guy here, plugging in next to the gimbal socket. And power, I ran it through the front door for convenience. I do have a cable on order that will plug into the S3 connector, and I'm going to have it go directly to the VC and ground. That way we don't have to keep unplugging and plugging it in. And the only thing we'll have to plug in is the actual battery. I did verify that it is 12 volts going into the FatShark. So it's not using any of the balancing plugs, it's actually using the actual outside voltages coming out of the balance connector of the battery. So And I still want to use this because it's got a capacitor in there, some circuitry to filter out any probably EMF from the motors and any other noise that it could possibly pick up. So now I want to finish applying. I did apply a zip tie to the USB cable to the center board, the upgrade kit board. And I also want to put some glue, as that's what they had. This was for strain relief on the USB cable. And over here I'll be putting glue to keep it from coming out of the LED connector. And I also noticed there was some glue over here on this connector, so it keeps it from coming out. So I'm going to use is Glue It by Elmer's. Should be pliable. So we'll just take a screwdriver, apply it to the screwdriver, and then we'll just swipe it in here. USB cable, push it down in there. Apply a little more, make it look nice. Okay, we have that. And looking for the other cable that was glued. I did have it where the EC board . So I had to pull the ECC board up. So that I could drill the hole without damaging the electronics. I did put some black tape over the voltage pins just so I wouldn't risk a short. I already have glue there. That looks like it. I'll clean off my screwdriver, put it back on the glue. So the next thing I would like to do is put in a toggle switch of some kind so that I could turn the FatShark on and off. There was some caution that I read on some sites where the FatShark does create a lot of heat and that it's designed to be on the outside. So I'm thinking about attaching a small heat sink on here to try to help dissipate it. Because there is a GPS sensor in the hood of the Phantom, and that heat will travel right into that, so I'm hoping that it doesn't cause me any problems. So my next step I want to do is hook up a power cable to the FatShark, but instead of having it come out through the body and plug into the power conditioner like so, I want to have it, because it's a pain to keep unplugging and plugging in to the battery every time you go to fly. So I want to hook up a switch, so I picked up a switch from Radio Shack. There's 4 of them in the bag. They're on, off, push on and off. And I'm going to have it mounted inside. So what I did is I purchased a accessory cable, basically, that's a balance tap extension for 3S. So I'm going to cut it and I'm going to use the two ends to supply the 12 volts to the FatShark. Actually to the regulator here. So now what we're going to do is mount a toggle switch, single pole, single throw, so we could turn the FPV on and off without ever having to plug in cable. So I decided there's enough real estate right here to mount the switch inside, and I'll have it come out the outside here. So what I did is took the switch apart. I have a washer. I'm going to take the washer, measured it with the drill bit, and so now we'll go ahead and drill in the side. Of course, I have a real dull drill bit. Well, since I'm not getting anywhere with that drill bit, I'm going to go to the next size smaller. Okay, I found the next size smaller. Goes right through. It's amazing what happens when you have the right tools. I'm going to bore it out a little. Since I do have to use this other drill bit, it shouldn't be as hard. Alright, looks like we made it through. So we're going to have to ream it out a little. And in the meantime, I do have the soldering iron heating up. Okay, there it is, nice and tight fit too. So there it is, it'll mount just like that. Nice and solid. Alright. So now we gotta solder our leads. So what I'm gonna do is pre-tin. This is where it's nice to have 3 hands. But since I don't, pliers are going to have to do. Okay. We took our cable, that is our extension cable. And we're going to cut it to size. So, I already have it plugged in. Cut one wire at a time. Not the black one. Get to splice our wires. And we're going to pre-tin those. Knock off the old solder. Kind of a cloudy day, so I'll have to turn some lights on. All right. Now we're going to solder where we use our handy dandy tool. Actually, it might be easier just to mount it in position. Oh, then again, it's on there, but it's what I call a cold joint, but it's enough to hold it in position. Now we're going to need a lead. Take some of the other red wire. Pre-tune. Okay. This is where the fun begins. We got to solder it to the V connector. It's labeled V. And this is where I'm going to actually use a tool to help. That is a very cold joint, so let's try that again. That should work. Run the wire underneath. But we're going to actually mount the switch so we get the right length. And all our other wires are out of the way. Do need to take that nut off of there. Okay. Screw the nut back on. Nice and snug. All right. Now the trick is going to be get the other red wire in position. Get the ECC wire out of the way. Alright, that looks like a good joint. Hey, there's our toggle switch. Now, just need to hook up the ground wire. Like so. Okay, using a tool. Pre-tin our iron. Actually, I'm gonna clamp this on. Make sure we have enough room. Okay. There we have it. Next thing I want to do is use the voltmeter to test our connections. So here, when we have continuity, you'll hear a beep. So we're going to go from ground, check taut, and it's open. That's open. Now we're going to go no connectivity, flip our switch. Check it with the voltage here, nice and solid. Flip our switch, and it's open. Alright, look like we're in business. Now for the real test, apply power and see what happens. Move our iron out of the way. Unplug it, make sure it stays in an area that keeps it cool. Alright, let's get our battery, put that in the tray, and we'll plug in our heads-up display. And we'll plug in our FatShark goggles. Notice I have the cable going from the goggles to the display. I have my antenna mounted. Yep, I know I won't burn anything out. Plug in my battery to the FatShark goggles. You hear a beep. Alright, that's a good sign. And our display, let's see if it flickers. Yeah, I think I saw a flicker there. Okay. Go ahead and turn on the remote for the Phantom. And this time, now all we have to do is plug in the battery to the quad. So far, so good. I'm gonna flip the switch. We do have it lighting up. Transmitter. Now we'll turn on the camera. And look at there, we have our display. And we'll turn off the switch. We lose transmitter, so that seems to be working. Flip it on again. And there we go. So everything is looking good. So there is our upgrade kit with the FatShark mounted inside. We're going to watch the temperature of the FatShark. Here I have watch that baby climb. We'll hit the laser. So it's already climbing up to 104. 101, 103, 105, 107. It gets hot pretty quick. And 111 now, 116, 118, there's 120. And 21, 22. And 24. Definitely gets hot to the touch. I don't think it'll get much hotter than 130. Well, then I could be mistaken. I'm not sure what the actual temperature does. There's 130 right now. So we may have to throw a heat sink of some kind on here. Just got to keep our eye on it. 132. definitely warm to the touch. I'm gonna so the gimbal's working. Do notice that I don't have the GPS hooked up. Alright, let's measure again. Turn on the laser. Oh, look at that, 138. There's 140. Still climbing. $141. The other thing we're going to need to verify is our range check. Make sure we don't get any interference before we actually fly. A few more minutes go by here, maybe another minute. I'll check it. In the meantime, I want to spin it up. Let's spin up the motor. There we go. Shut her down. Okay. So everything seems to be functioning. Again, I don't have the GPS plugged in. Let's see what our temperature is now. Oh, look at that, 150, 52. The Naza, that's sitting there 97, there's 100. So the Naza does warm up too. $153. Everything seems to be functioning. 156. So the debate is, do we trust it to get that hot inside the cover? Remember, there's no cooling. I think what I will do is put some type of a shield across here so it doesn't burn the tape that's protecting the GPS on the top of the Phantom. A piece of plastic, a PC board probably would be sufficient. If I had to heat sink that thin, I would try that. Alright, let's see what we're at now. Laser. $155, 158. Oh, there's 159. There's 160. So it's slowly climbing. Let's check out the Naza. That's keeping around room temperature. There's 99. Room temperature is 90, or about 88 actually. So yeah, we're definitely at 160. Look at the rest of the board. Everything's room temperature. Doesn't seem to get that hot. check our motors. Man, they're a little warm on the gyro. We're up to 95 for not moving. The other one's at 105. So they do get a little warm. So there we are up to 163, 164. Oh, there's 165. Somewhere on there. And 166. Definitely hot to the touch. We'll let it run for a little bit longer. Let's spin those motors up again. Okay. I don't see any interference, which is good. And really liking the fact that FPV is working. Take a look at our goggles. Alright, goggles are looking good. I don't know, I doubt you could see anything. No. Look at our temperature now. Turn that laser back on. 165. 166. That seems to be the point that it's cooling at. Could put a thermistor on there as an extra safety. Set it to 180, and that'll shut the FatShark off in flight. I don't know if that's desirable or not. Switch is working. Let's see how long it takes to cool down. So we're reading 162, 160, 156. It's cooling down fairly quickly. 155, 54, 53. So probably a degree every 5 seconds. 52, 51, 50, 49, 48, 7. Okay. Now, let's put our bat together. We have finished all our mods. I may want to put some tape around the switch just to make sure nothing shorts out. The nice thing is I only have one power connector to contend with now. There we go. Shut that off, shut that off. And except, well, you know, the power on the camera itself. Okay, let's go ahead and button this thing up. We got everything glued into place. We're going to try it without doing anything to the FatShark. Hook up our GPS cable. Run our power line so it doesn't get pinched. One thing I do notice is that not much slack in that cable. You do want to make sure that it's going on correctly, and that's not. And that's part of our problem. How did I know if it was on correctly or not? Well, the labels, and then of course the red stripes. Red stripes go to the rear. I take that back. Red stripes, the whole thing's flipped off by 180. So because of that, I'm gonna disconnect GPS, flip this around, that way our wires don't get twisted inside here. Plug that in. Okay, GPS is fully plugged in. Okay, and get the decals to come out. There's a nice clean install. Nice and tight. Flip it over. Start with the outside screws. Get them started. Verify none of our wires are pinched. I don't see any wires, so we're looking good. There's our switch. Toggle switch. It's a little bit bigger than what I wanted, but it's small enough that you don't see it, so it doesn't take away too much of the looks. Okay, plug in our rest of those screws with the Allen wrench. The screws near the landing gear are the hardest. First you got to get them to go in the right way. And then, since my Allen wrench isn't that tall, I have to work the screw in. And it does have a lot more resistance when you tighten. compared to the motor screws here. I'm sure that's by design. But it is something to note when you do take it apart or put it back together. You don't want to over tighten anything because you are dealing with plastic. While I'm thinking of it, I don't want to drain my battery to the goggles or the display more than I have to. So I'll unplug those. Finish installing our screws. So the next thing I'm going to do once I have it all together is I'm going to plug in the USB port to the computer, run the calibration checks, make sure they all pass, then we'll take it out and we'll do a distance check. Then we'll do a test flight. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave messages on the comments down below. Tried to give you some insight that DJI didn't give you, and I haven't found in any of the other videos. It's pretty much a learn as you go. So I think some of the trickiest things that I discovered on my own the hard way. It's that upgrade kit. Nowhere does it tell you that you do not use the Zen Muse H3 2D board that came with the gimbal. You just don't use it. And let's see, what are some of the other unknowns or undocumented questionable things? The assembly of the gimbal was pretty straightforward. The video was good on that. Okay, I'm going to go around and check all my nuts and snug them up again. That guy definitely was loose. So you do, even though it feels tight, you do want to turn till it really stops turning. But you don't want to overdo it. Right there. Okay. Just go around and double check everything. Snug. Snug. Okay, now the final Phillips. You'll notice that those will be loose. They won't take much. These are the ones that are going straight into plastic, where the other was going into brass. Definitely do not want to strip these. Okay, there you have it. Drop the battery, and we'll push down our decals. It's good to leave those decals on there. That was another making sure I had the cover on correctly trick, because then I knew that it would be sticky down below. That's how I knew it was on incorrectly. And that seems to be real easy to do, put them on incorrectly. And why do you care? Well, the main thing is direction for the GPS. And the other thing is when you go to put the props on and you follow the diagrams here, the diagram's off, it's not going to fly. Okay, notice you got the arrows on the props. You got to match what's on the body of the Phantom. Line up slots there to the props. Just push them on. Okay, this is clockwise here. There we go. This one here is also clockwise. On their slots. That's the next thing I want to do, is upgrade the props to wood props or carbon fiber props. This one's counterclockwise. Alright, then we put on our nuts, hubcaps. Okay, take our wrench, give them a nice snug twist. You can actually hold the motor too, but I feel that you get a stronger grip by holding the prop. And I did balance the props earlier. Had to use some sandpaper, but it wasn't that bad. Okay, thanks for watching.